stop scrolling. Because this isn't Trump being Trump, this is Trump testing the limits of power. At 1:43 a.m., one sentence, said half-jokingly, sent shockwaves through financial and political circles. The target? The Federal Reserve. The message? Even independence has a price. What happens when the most powerful person in America threatens to sue the guy he just nominated to control the entire economy, and he does it? As a joke? Or was it? On January 30th, 2025, President Donald Trump stood before America's political elite at one of the most secretive dinner parties in Washington and made a statement that sent shockwaves through financial markets worldwide. He said he could sue Kevin Warsh, his own nominee for Federal Reserve Chairman, if interest rates aren't cut. Now here's the thing. Everyone laughed, but Wall Street stopped laughing real quick. Because when a president jokes about the Federal Reserve, your mortgage, your savings account, and your retirement fund are all listening. So was this really just a joke? Or did Trump just reveal his entire economic playbook while wearing a tuxedo and eating premium steak? Stay with me, because what happened at this dinner could determine whether you're paying more or less for literally everything in the next 4 years. Let me take you inside the room where this happened. January 30th, 2025. The Alfalfa Club annual dinner. Now, if you've never heard of the Alfalfa Club, don't feel bad. Most Americans haven't. And that's exactly how they like it. Picture this: a ballroom in a luxury Washington, D.C. hotel. The most powerful people in America, all dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, sitting down to premium steaks and expensive wine. We're talking Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, former Presidents George W. Bush, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Trump's White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and political heavyweights like Mitt Romney and Mitch McConnell. This isn't just any dinner party. The Alfalfa Club was founded in 1913, over 110 years ago. It traditionally meets on the last Saturday of January to commemorate the birthday of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. The club is named after the alfalfa plant, known for being extremely resilient and hard to kill. And honestly, that's a pretty fitting metaphor for the people in this room. Here's what makes this dinner so unique. What happens at Alfalfa Club stays at Alfalfa Club. The White House press corps? Not invited. Media? Outside the door. These speeches are never officially disclosed. It's one of the few places where American presidents can let their guard down, roast their political rivals, and say things they'd never say on camera. Or at least, that used to be the case. Because Trump, being Trump, couldn't help but let some of his jokes leak out to reporters later. Now, Trump didn't attend this dinner during his first term as president, but this year, he showed up in a tuxedo, ready to make his presence known. So here's what happened. Trump gets up to speak. The room is packed with political royalty, and he drops this bomb. He says he could sue Kevin Warsh if interest rates aren't cut. Now let's unpack why this is absolutely wild. First, Kevin Warsh is Trump's own nominee. Trump picked this guy to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. This is the person who will have more control over the American economy than almost anyone else in the country. The Fed chair decides interest rates, which affects everything. Your car loans, your credit cards, your mortgage, whether businesses can afford to hire people, whether the stock market goes up or down. And Trump is already threatening to sue him before he even gets the job. Second, presidents aren't supposed to interfere with the Federal Reserve. This is like Economics 101. The Fed is supposed to be independent. Why? Because if presidents could just tell the Fed what to do, they'd always demand lower interest rates to make the economy look good before elections, even if it causes massive inflation down the road. But Trump has never cared about this rule. During his first term, he constantly attacked Jerome Powell, the current Fed chair, for not cutting rates fast enough. He called Powell names on Twitter, publicly pressured him, and made it clear he wasn't happy. So when Trump made this comment about suing Warsh, everyone laughed. But here's the thing. Was he really joking? After the dinner, Trump talked to reporters on his plane. And you know what he said? He confirmed he made the comment, called it a satirical roast, but then immediately added that he expects rate cuts. So let me get this straight. It's a joke, but also he really does expect the rates to come down. That's not really a joke, is it? That's a threat wrapped in humor. All right, let's bring this back to reality. Why should you care about what Trump said at some fancy dinner party? Because interest rates control your life more than you probably realize. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, borrowing money becomes more expensive. That means your mortgage payment goes up, credit card interest rates increase, car loans cost more. Businesses can't afford to borrow money to expand, so they hire fewer people. The stock market usually goes down because companies make less profit. When the Fed lowers interest rates, the opposite happens. Borrowing becomes cheaper. More people buy houses and cars. Businesses expand and hire. The stock market tends to go up. But here's the catch. If rates go too low for too long, you get inflation. Suddenly, everything costs more. Groceries, gas, rent. And your paycheck doesn't go as far. So the Fed chair has to walk this incredibly delicate tightrope. Lower rates too much, you get inflation. Keep them too high, you risk a recession. And Trump? Trump wants low rates. He's made that crystal clear. He wants a booming economy, a soaring stock market, and cheap loans. And he doesn't care if the Fed is supposed to be independent. That's why his comment at the Alfalfa Club wasn't just a throwaway joke. It was a message, a very public message to Kevin Warsh. Do what I want, or there will be consequences. And Wall Street heard that message loud and clear. Let's talk more about this Alfalfa Club, because understanding the culture of this event makes Trump's comments even more interesting. This club has a fascinating history. When it started in 1913, it was basically an exclusive club for wealthy white men. It didn't accept black members until the 1970s. Women weren't allowed until 1994. But over the years, it became this neutral ground where Democrats and Republicans could come together, away from cameras and controversy, and just be human with each other. The whole point of the annual dinner is self-deprecating humor. Presidents are expected to roast themselves, make fun of their opponents, and generally not take themselves too seriously. Bill Clinton tried to show up once, arrived an hour late without a tuxedo, and got turned away at the door. He later had to apologize and was eventually let in. Barack Obama wasn't even invited until he became president in 2008 because you had to be a member or be the sitting president. The speeches at these dinners are legendary for their humor. But there's usually a boundary. You can joke about yourself. You can gently roast your opponents. But you don't typically use the platform to send serious policy signals. And that's what makes Trump's comments so different. When Trump called out Mitt Romney and asked him to stand, and the crowd applauded loudly, Trump reportedly said, "I can't joke about him in a room full of people who like him." That's actually funny. That's the kind of self-aware humor the Alfalfa Club is known for. But threatening to sue your Fed chair nominee over economic policy? That's not a roast. That's a warning shot. Here's what I think is really going on. Trump has always believed that presidents should have more control over the economy. He's frustrated that the Fed can act independently. He thinks Jerome Powell hurt the economy during his first term by not cutting rates when Trump wanted. So now, Trump is trying something different. Instead of waiting until Kevin Warsh is Fed chair and then complaining about him publicly, Trump is setting expectations early. He's telling Warsh and telling the markets and telling the American people what he expects to happen. It's actually a smart political move in a weird way. If Warsh does cut rates and the economy booms, Trump takes credit. If Warsh doesn't cut rates and the economy struggles, Trump can say, "See, I told you. I even joked about suing him because I knew this would happen." Trump gets to win either way. But here's the risk. The Federal Reserve's independence exists for a reason. When presidents interfere too much with monetary policy, it can cause serious long-term problems. Investors need to trust that the Fed is making decisions based on economic data, not political pressure. If that trust erodes, it can cause market instability. And Trump joking, or not joking, about suing the Fed chair. That doesn't exactly inspire confidence in the Fed's independence. We also have to talk about the optics. Trump showed up at this dinner with his wife Melania, who he reportedly called a movie star because she was recently featured in a documentary. The head table included Mitch McConnell, a Republican leader who's had an increasingly awkward relationship with Trump, and McConnell's spouse, former Labor Secretary Elaine Chao. These people represent the old guard of the Republican Party, the establishment, the people who follow norms and traditions. And Trump? Trump doesn't do norms and traditions. He does whatever he thinks will work. Consequences be damned. So where do we go from here? Kevin Warsh still has to be confirmed by the Senate to become Fed chair. That confirmation process is going to be fascinating. Senators are absolutely going to ask him about Trump's comments. They're going to ask him how independent he'll be. They're going to ask him if he'll cut rates just because the president wants him to. And Warsh's answers will tell us a lot about what the next few years of economic policy will look like. If Warsh pushes back and insists he'll be independent, that's good for the long-term health of the economy, but it might create conflict with Trump. If Warsh signals he'll be cooperative with Trump's wishes, markets might rally in the short term, but economists will worry about inflation and political interference. Either way, Trump's joke at the Alfalfa Club just made Kevin Warsh's job about 10 times harder before he even officially has the job. And for you watching this, keep an eye on interest rates over the next few months. If rates start coming down, your mortgage and car payments could get cheaper. But watch your grocery bill, because lower rates could also mean higher inflation. The bottom line is this. When the President of the United States jokes about suing the guy who controls the economy, it's not really a joke. It's a preview of what's coming. Trump told us exactly what he wants. Lower interest rates, a booming economy, and a Fed chair who listens to him. Now we just have to wait and see if he gets it. That's the video for today. If you found this analysis helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into politics and economics. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think Trump was joking, or was this a serious threat? I'll see you in the next one.